Hi, my name is Sam. Welcome to part 2 of the Dreamweaver fluid grid layout. I'll just walk you through what I've done so far between the part 1 and this part. In the part 1, we inserted the layout. I've gone ahead to insert all the text and stuff. So for those of you students, you would have the file which with the name content. Okay, so if you have the name file with the name content, you would copy the content and paste them into this. So you should have something like this. At this point, I have gone ahead to make the text here. That's Sam Uni. I've made it heading 1. So I click in there and change down here to heading 1. I went ahead to make this an unordered list, so I selected them. Okay, initially you type the text, press return, select them, and you go and down here you make it an unordered list. All right, so I made them unordered list. I also selected each of them and made it a link. So you have down here, this is a link, so just a nowhere link for now. Well, the image just right in here. So we'll go ahead and style the page. So I want this to have a black background, so I'm going to go into that. We gave this a name and we gave it the name logo. So to start with, I'm going to start with the logo. I'll click on new CSS rule and to style it. Well, I just want the name hash logo, and I am going to create a new style sheet file. Okay, so I'm creating a new style sheet file to store the CSS styles I created. We know that the fluid layout itself provides us with some already made styles, and that we saved into a file here. But for now, we want to create our own, and so we choose the name hash logo because it's an ID. Well, you can choose ID, okay, and if you do, you may have to type the name again and put the hash. All right. Now I'm going to click on OK. It's going to ask me where to save the file. Well, I'll save it in my CSS folder, and I'm going to call this main. Okay, I probably may have another main there, so let me just call this main underscore Sam. Okay, so it's just a little easier. You can add a .css. If you don't, Dreamweaver would do this for you. And I did not point this out initially, but before you got started, that's even in the part 1, you need to define a site. So you have to define a site, create a root folder before you get started with inserting the grids. All right. Now what do we want for the this particular div? We want to give it a background color, so black background color. Okay, and of course, once the background color is black, then the text would have to be white or something of the sort. I'll just use white. I'll click on OK for now, and the next thing is I want to shift this away from the edge of the div. So I'm going to go and create a new rule, and the new rule I'm going to create, I'll create for a heading 1. So heading 1 inside logo. So I'll type hash logo, okay, hash logo space and h1. All right, so that is heading 1, that is within logo, and this is going to be a compound. So maybe just type that again, h1. All right, and I'll allow this to go into main underscore sam.css, and I'll click on OK. So with this, I'm going to decide, well, whether I want the font to increase in size or something. Let's go with 30. And if you have a particular font you want to choose here, I'll choose Georgia Times New Roman. And I'm going to go to box and set the padding on the left. I want some 30 pixels margin, or let's say in this case, a margin on the left side, okay, of 30 pixels. And when you click apply, that moves this 30 pixels away, and I'll click on OK. Right, so that's all I want to do for that. I'm going to target the next one, which is nav. So I'll have that selected, and I want to give it a black background too. So I'll go in here and just click layer specific, just have hash nav. I'm saving it in here. Click on OK, and background color just black. Right, that's all I'll do for it for now. The next thing I'm going to do is to style my navigation. So I'll click somewhere within the navigation, and first we want to get rid of the bullets, all right, and also to get rid of the space that is created down here. So we are going to address the on order list. So I'll click in here, and we want to type into this hash nav space UL, and we'll click on OK. With that, we'll go to the list. If you keep your eye here, and I go to list and I choose none. Okay, when I click on apply, the bullets are gone. We also want to send it back, so no space, no padding. We type 0 for the padding, and the padding is taken away. Okay, so that's done with the ULs. Next, we're going to create some rules for the links themselves. So we'll have that selected. We can probably click in somewhere to help us. Okay, just have a click in there and click on that layer specific, and so we get something like hash nav space UL, but we want this to be nav li space a. Okay, also going still in a main.css. So we will keep our eye here whilst we create that, and I'm going to click on OK. For the font, we would want the font color to be white. All right, and so we change that. We don't want it underlined, so we keep that. Okay, text decoration, sorry, not underlined, so none. Okay. If we want it to be always uppercase, then we can go and text transform. In that case, if we should even type lowercase, it will still be changed for us. We want it to be uppercase. Okay, so I think that's all we will do for the text. We'll go to the background. We want the background color to be black. All right, and you don't see at this point because the background itself is already black. We'll go to block and we'll display that to be block. We want them to sit on their own level. However, at one point we would want them to join up there. So after making this block, we go to box and we'll float to the left. That would allow it to move onto the same line. Okay, now we need some spaces in between them. So we would probably turn in here and let's say 10 for all for padding. Providing some space in here. If you want something much more than that, you can add to it. If you want them to be spaced a little bit more, you can also go in here and provide some margin for it. I'll keep this right here at this. Okay, and let's say we may want a border, but if you want border, you can provide for that. You can go ahead and style some many more. Just for recording purposes, I don't want to keep this too long. We can also set this to a fixed width if you want all of them to have a fixed width, but I'll leave it at this for now, and I'll click on OK. Right, we have created, let me preview this in a browser, or we can even preview within live view. Okay, when we come in live view here, we are able to navigate into each of these. Okay, let me go into the browser so it's much clearer. I'll save. I want to save all the files. You say yes, and that's all we have for now. Okay, so we're going to create rollovers for them. We're going to create rollovers for the rest of the navigation. So I'm going to go into my styles and I'll click on, well, I'll click within that space to help me. If you have clicked on live view, you want to click back on live view to get out of it. That sometimes can be quite confusing. I'm going to click on new CSS rule, and here I'm going to create for a compound. Its name will be nav space li space a. Okay, so and I'll add the colon to it and type hover. So this will be the rollover version of it. I'm going to click on OK, and mainly what I'm going to change will be the background. I'll probably change the background color to white. Okay, so background color, I'll change it to white and change the font itself to let's say red. Okay, some kind of a red. You may not see that much change go on here, but we'll click on OK. Again, you can style this a lot more just for recording purposes. I wouldn't want to spend all the time doing this. Well, at this section, we don't need to make any changes. So I'll select that. That's the icon, and I'll go and insert new div. Well, we may not have touched so much on the M's, but they are also units of measurement. Roughly 1 M is about 16 pixels for most web browsers, but that's just a generalization. So here I'm going to use 1.6 2.7 M for that. So I'll go and say icon space img. Okay, images within the icon. I'll click on OK, and with this I'll go into box, uncheck that, and on the left and on the right here I'll go 2.7. Okay, and I'm saying I'm using EM. I just tried that value and it seemed to work largely quite well for me. That's why I'm using that. And click on apply, and that stretches out and fits in quite well. And I'll click on OK here. I'm going to go into these three. Each of them is going to take about 33.3 because if the whole space is 100%, so or 33.33. So I'm going to go and create a class for them. We call them courses 1, courses 2, courses 3, but because all of them are going to have the same property, we would create a class for them. So I'm going to go into this and I'll create a class. So this time I'm creating a class and I'll make up the name of the class. So I'll just call it dot courses, courses. Okay, and I'll store it into this. Click on OK. What do you want for them? Each of them, we want them to have a width of 33.33%. So you type in the percentage, or you can choose in here. I'll click on apply and OK. I'll then select each of the divs, right click CSS styles, and I'm going to apply courses to it. So the classes we created, you can either use this right click and CSS styles and courses, or you may select it and down here you look for CSS styles and apply courses to it. All right, so I'll go ahead and click in front of the text and press return to get a paragraph. Click in front, press return to get a paragraph, and click in front and press return to get a paragraph. Right, when you look at each of these images, they seem to currently to me are set to, they may be set to a fixed layout, okay, a fixed width. Watch, when I have this one selected, I've changed the value of it. So when you look down here, there are no values. That means that depending on the size of whether it's a tablet or it is a desktop or a mobile device, this is going to scale all by itself. And the fluid grid that we created earlier on in the beginning is going to get these to resize all by themselves. So I'll prefer to have this not to have any values in here. Unlike the other ones, most likely yours may have a value. Okay, so I'm selecting each of them for these particular images, and you see a value here. We want to get rid of the value. Okay, and when you get rid of that, you have this thing down here. If you want to reset back to the original, you can do so. But in this case, I want this to resize all by itself. All right, let's preview the work and see how we've done, what we've done so far. And I want to save this, yes, to have it saved. And yeah, it's taking shape. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type in the name. So you may probably type in the name, but I'm typing event. And so hash event, all right, and space img, in other words, images inside event, and I'll click on OK. How do we expect them to behave? So largely, I want them to float to the left. If you click on apply, you may see some changes happen. Okay, and I need some space in front of them, so I'll need some margin on the right side. Let's say about 15 pixels, depending on how much you may want to apply to that, and that space is at about 15 pixels. All right, so